The nearly round-the-world trip of Dallas millionaire H. Ross Perot is about halfway complete. Halfway only in terms of mileage traveled, more than half complete in terms of things accomplished. These last 2 days in Vientiane, Laos will be described as some members of the press as partial failure. There will be others who will describe it as Ross Perot's greatest hour. This trip began from Dallas, Texas, on its way across
this is still a temporary solution to a problem. Crime increase, the number of prisoners we're seeing held and so forth continue to increase. We've got to look for another solution. And I think this solution will have to be found in a bond issue to the public to either add floors to the present building where the jail is, or to build another building and move some of the courts out and put the jail there, or some other approach. But it will take a bond issue of the public and public support before this can be accomplished.
It'd be a national campaign. Monday on the 6th, our national staff will get together in Atlanta to decide whether or not we will have a national campaign centered around the ideas that Dr. King left with the staff. If there isn't a national campaign, we in Operation Breadbasket will further our program here based on the economic program that he left us.
Do you have any specific plans then for Dallas?
In this month, April, we'll move directly into Operation Breadbasket. Selective buying, economic boycotts, negotiations. We're hoping for meaningful negotiations without boycotts of selective buying, but if necessary, we will be doing this.
CAA would put an additional restriction on that 11th game, which I think would have made for a very interesting situation in college football, to restrict either by the number of years that you could schedule in advance, or even to go further than that and say that you could not schedule your 11th game until 5 games of the football season had gone by, which meant that the game would be played by teams around the country after the pattern of college football was developing during the year. As you well know, the Southwestern Conference winner must play in the Cotton Bowl. The Big Ten champion must play in the Rose Bowl, which precludes putting together teams like Ohio State and Notre Dame, or Penn State and Ohio State, or the winner of the Big Ten Conference, or the Southwestern Conference champion playing in anything other than the Cotton Bowl itself. If you had this wild card set up, I think it would give teams an opportunity to play one another at the conclusion of the regular season, prior to the bowl game, which would come closer to a national championship game, because the likelihood of a national championship playoff is very remote. To get representation on a national basis of all the conferences and all the major independents is virtually impossible. And this is why I was hopeful that they would put a restriction. They didn't, which means the teams are scheduling in advance, 6, 8, 10 years in advance of their 11th game. So this is the way it's going to have to be. We have not decided, I should say, we have decided not to play an 11th game in 1970. But it's conceivable by mid-season or by the 8th game that we could throw a challenge out to another team to make it our 11th game on the first Saturday after the conclusion of the regular season.
We
we feel very good. We're pleased, and I hope that this is a trend that will continue through into the general bids and that we'll see even a greater reduction on the general bids.
If this trend does continue, do you think that the amount of money that you would have to come up with over what is allotted would be amount that would be reasonably able for you to come up with?
I'd rather comment on that after we see all the figures and I have had a chance to completely analyze them.
I think the most important thing is the fact that we are bearing witness to the dead man, Martin King, and to his ideas, and to what we feel about him. And in this, we may open up people's eyes to other problems and issues in the city here.
Is this march any part of a program to further Martin Luther King's ideas?
Very definitely.
We this morning did what was necessary to move $200,000 from road and bridge funds over into the general fund to help fund the cost of $278,000 additional for the operation of an additional jail, the old jail. 78,000 of this will come from the additional 78 will come from the unallocated reserve. Then in June or late June, just prior to the time of our statutory requirement of setting a tax rate and so forth, we will reevaluate the county's fiscal position and at such time make determination on whether or not we have to do any other changing of monies from one fund to another.